For a while now, Blender users have had to make a significant compromise when choosing a render engine. Either you choose cycles and get really realistic ray traced results, but your render times are gonna be slow. Or you choose Eevee and sacrifice a bit of the realism for much shorter render times and easier viewport display. Now, in Blender 4.2, Blender is announcing new version of Eevee which comes with screen space ray tracing. Can the new Eevee fulfill the promises of real-time displacement and real-time ray tracing? Let's look at the new features in Blender 4.2 beta. Number 1 is new Eevee. Maybe the most significant change is ray tracing. It is turned on by default. And it seems to work great right out of the box. We can see the effects of the bounce light right away. One element I'm still a bit confused by, to be honest, is when I scroll in and scroll out, the lighting changes. But maybe this is related to how the software calculates the ray tracing. Maybe it's related to the viewport position. Also, when I render out this short test animation where the camera moves slightly outwards, I notice some change in the reflection or the lighting in the bottom side of the apple. Increasing the global illumination resolution increased the render time but didn't solve the problem. Increasing the screen tracing precision didn't affect the render time nor the artifact or light effect. It seems that when I scroll very close to the object, the reflections disappear. So I'm thinking, is there a clamping factor? Apart from this lighting changing when scrolling in and out, I think the screen space ray tracing looks really nice. Some changes, for example to volume density, take effect in the viewport a bit slowly. The render times seem to be a bit longer than in legacy Eevee. Also, while rendering, I'm not really able to view the progression of the render yet. Blender just seems to be in a non-responsive mode until the render is done. Transparent materials definitely work differently in the previous version compared to the new 4.0 Eevee. I can see that the lighting has changed in the scene. The render time is around 1/3 in legacy Eevee compared to Eevee Next. I think that's a significant difference. Let's look at what we can do with the settings to reduce the render time. Again, when I'm rendering, I don't see percentage going forward. The percentage stays at 0 until the render is finished. And increasing that volume resolution only affected the render time by 2 seconds. Okay, well, reducing the samples clearly affected the render time. Now I'm down to 23 seconds. This area seems to be quite noisy. And surprisingly, turning the ray tracing off didn't really affect the render time. Sunlight contribution is automatically extracted from HDRI lighting. This is very interesting, let's try it out. And yes, we do have a shadow and a light from just the HDRI map. There is no light in the scene. When it comes to interior HDRIs, however, it seems to work in an interesting way, where Eevee might be struggling to decide, is one of these light ends of the tunnel a sun? I'm really curious about this effect. If I put the sun threshold to 0 and disable the shadow, it seems like I don't have the sun effect from the HDRI anymore. With the new Eevee displacement, I'm able to get quite nice render results. And the render times are not that extreme, even though there's quite high poly count in my plane. Especially in combination with the procedural texturing in Blender, it's quite nice to be able to preview your displacement almost in real time. So to conclude about the rendering, The ray tracing looks really nice, but there might be some artifacts that happen when zooming in and out of a scene or moving closer with the camera. The render times with the same samples are a lot higher, but the render times can be reducing the render samples, and slightly reduced by reducing the volume resolution. The displacement seems to work perfectly fine already in the beta phase of the release. The sunlight can be derived from the HDRI, but it works the best for outdoor scenes. It can be turned off from the sun properties for indoor scenes. All in all, this is a really great update for rendering in Eevee, and I'm very thankful about the hard work that the developers have been putting in.